The gas explosion caught up with them, just as they were entering the light-filled cavity at the top of the escarpment. From deep in the tunnel resounded a squealing electronic wail, and at the same time, almost as if the cave system were gasping for breath, a searing wind tore down from the perforation in the grotto's arched ceiling through which the ship had entered. A muffled yet ground-heaving detonation followed, then a roiling fireball that was the labyrinth's scorching exhalation. Whirling towards the tunnel they had just exited, and managing somehow to remain on his feet, Tenebrous conjured a force shield with his waving arms that met the fireball and contained it, thousands of flaming hawkbats spiraling within the tumult like wind-blown embers. A few meters away, Plagueis, hurled face first into the ground by the intensity of the vaporizing blast, lifted his head in time to see the underside of the domed ceiling begin to shed enormous slabs of rock. Directly below the plummeting slabs sat their starship. "Master," he said, scrambling to his feet with arms lifted in an attempt to hold the rocks in midair. His own arms still raised in a force-summoning posture, Tenebrous swung around to bolster Plagueis' intent. Behind him, the fireball's final flames surged from the mouth of the tunnel to lick his back and drive him deeper into the grotto. The cave continued to spasm underfoot, sending shockwaves through the crazed ceiling. Cracks spread like a web from the oculus, triggering collapses throughout the grotto. Plagueis heard a rending sound overhead and watched a figure zigzag its way across the ceiling, slowing layer after layer of stone as it followed the grotto's curved wall. Now, though, it was Tenebrous who was positioned under the fall, and in that instant, Plagueis perceived the danger Tenebrous had foreseen earlier. His death. His death at Plagueis' hands. While Tenebrous was preoccupied holding aloft the slabs that threatened to crush the ship, Plagueis quickly reoriented himself, aiming his raised hands at the plummeting slabs above his master and, with a downward motion of both arms, brought them down so quickly and with so much momentum that Tenebrous was buried almost before he understood what hit him. Stone dust eddying around him, Plagueis stood rooted in place as slabs entered the ship as well. But he gave it no thought. His success in bringing the ceiling down on Tenebrous was proof enough that the Bith had grown sluggish and expendable. Otherwise, he would have divined the true source of the danger he had sensed, and Plagueis would be the one pressed to the floor of the grotto, head cracked open like an egg, and chest cavity pierced by the pointed end of a fallen stalactite. His race to Tenebrous' side was informed as much by excitement as charade. "Master," he said, genuflecting and removing his and Tenebrous' respirators. His hands pawed at the stones, removing some of the crushing weight. But Tenebrous' single lung was pierced, and blood gurgled in his throat. Ragged tears in the sleeves of the envirosuit revealed esoteric body markings and tattoos. "Stop, apprentice," Tenebrous strained to say. "You're going to need all your strength." "I can bring help, there's time." "I'm dying, Darth Plagueis. There's only time for that." Plagueis held the Bith's pained gaze. "I did all that I could, Master." Tenebrous interrupted him once more. "To be strong in the Force is one thing, but to believe oneself to be all-powerful is to invite catastrophe. Remember that even in the ethereal realm that we inhabit, the unforeseen can occur." A stuttering cough silenced him for a moment. "Better this way, perhaps, than to perish at your hand." As Darth Bane would have wished, Plagueis thought. "Who supplied the mining probe, Master?" "Subtext," Tenebrous said in a weak voice. "Subtext mining." Plagueis nodded. "I will avenge you." Tenebrous canted his huge head ever so slightly. "Will you?" "Of course." If the Bith was convinced, he kept it to himself, and said instead, "You are fated to bring the Sith imperative to fruition, Plagueis. It falls to you to bring the Jedi Order to its knees and save the rest of the galaxy's sentience from themselves." At long last, Plagueis told himself, the mantle is conferred. But I need to warn you, Tenebrous started to say, and fell abruptly silent. Plagueis could sense the Bith's highly evolved mind replaying recent events, calculating odds, reaching conclusions. Warn me about what, Master? Tenebrous's black eyes shone with yellow light, and his free hand clutched at the ring collar of Plagueis' envirosuit. You! Plagueis pried the Bith's thin hand from the fabric, and grinned faintly. Yes, Master. Your death comes at my bidding. You said yourself that perpetuation of purpose is the way to victory. And so it is. Go to your grave knowing that you are the last of the old order, the vaunted rule of two, and that the new order begins now and will, for 1,000 years, remain in my control. Tenebrous coughed spittle and blood. Then, for the last time, I call you apprentice, and I applaud your skillful use of surprise and misdirection. Perhaps I was wrong to think you had no stomach for it. The dark side guided me, Tenebrous. You sensed it, but your lack of faith in me clouded your thoughts. The Bith's head bobbed in agreement, even before we came to Beldemnik. And yet we came, because we were fated to. Tenebrous paused, and spoke with renewed urgency. But wait, the ship. Crushed as you are. Tenebrous's anger stabbed at Plagueis. You've risked everything to undo me, the entire future of the Sith. My instincts about you prove correct after all. Plagueis leaned away from him, nonchalant, but in fact filled with an icy fury. I'll find a way home, Tenebrous, as will you. And with a chopping motion of his left hand, broke the Bith's neck.